Hey guys, welcome to my very first YouTube video. Frugal Samurai here. Hope everyone is safe and well during this current time. My first video is going to be on 5 personal finance habits that we can all do right now. But first, a little bit about myself. I'm a millennial here in Sydney, Australia. I've been working in the financial industry for just over a decade now, and I run my own independent blog at thefrugalsamurai.com. You can check it out in the links below. And I am a fire wannabe. Now, when I say fire, I don't mean arson. Arson is a big no-no in many countries, practically everyone, in fact. No, what I mean is financial independence, retire early. Because I strongly believe that having the option to fire gives me options to do with my time, and time is the most valuable commodity in the world. I don't want to be working for the man. I want to be living my own life. So if this is interesting to you, join me on my YouTube videos, and in the next few weeks I'll be sharing a few tips and tricks as to how we can all grow on this journey together. Without further ado, let's jump right into number one. Number one on the personal finance habit is tracking your finances. So tracking your finances comes in 2 forms. One is you need to track your income. So we're talking about things like your salary from your job. You might have a side hustle. You might have dividends from shares. You might have rent from an investment property, or you might be selling stuff online. Whatever it may be, your income is money that comes in, and that conversely means that there is money going out. And your money going out is what's called expenses. So there are 2 types of expenses. The first type is the essential expenses. So we're talking things like your rent or your home loans, your car loans, grocery bills, utility bills, your phone bills, anything that's going to be ongoing. These are essential expenses. And the second one is non-essential expenses. So non-essential expenses are more variable. So we're talking things like you're going out, you're seeing friends, parties, a new wardrobe, anything that's more discretionary. That's what's called non-essential expenses. This is a very important step because it actually gives you visibility over your income and expenses, and that brings us to number 2, which is to have a budget. Having a budget is actually very important because it allows us to have a mental map of where everything is going. So by having a budget, you might be wanting to allocate your income to your different expenses. For example, you might want to allocate 30% of your expenses to your household, so things like your rent or your mortgage. Then you might want to allocate 40% onto your fixed or essential expenses, so your groceries, your utility bills, phone bills, car loan repayments, whatever it may be. That will leave you with, say, 20% on your discretionary expenses or your variable non-essential expenses. So things like going out with friends, dining out, watching a movie, anything that's discretionary. That's something that you might want to have a think about. And then that will leave you with 10% to do with savings. It's important to have savings because without savings, it's very difficult to achieve your personal finance goals. Having savings allows us to A, either save that money, or B, to invest that money. So that brings us to number 3, which is financial goals. So why do we have goals? Bringing back to that mental map picture, having goals allows us to navigate our own course on that map, going from point A to point B, and the goals is actually the direction that we take. So how do you set goals? One way that I like to do it is to keep it SMART. S stands for specific, M is measurable, A is attainable, R is realistic, and T is timely. It's important to follow these SMART principles to set your goals. For example, you might want to set a goal of saving $10,000 in 6 months, or to pay off your $5,000 credit card in 1 year. Whatever it may be, remember to keep them SMART. Another useful way that I've found to track my own goals is to keep track of my net wealth. So your net wealth is actually your assets, which are things that you own. So we're talking about things like your cash, your property, or it might be some shares, it might be your household items, your car, minus your liabilities, which are things like your car loan or your home loan or your credit card whatever it may be. Assets minus your liabilities equals your net wealth. So keeping track of your net wealth actually keeps yourself accountable and gives you a good direction as to where you are going. And that brings us to number 4, which is to never impulse buy. We've all been there innocently browsing the Insta and we click on those pesky ads, and before you know it, the next day we are the proud owner of a new pair of leopard print pajamas. Yep. Anyway, one way that I've learned to avoid doing this is to actually go through the motions. So when I say that, I mean I actually click on the add to checkout, fill in all my details on the next page, but then I exit the browser without actually clicking pay. And what I find is that in the next few days, if I still want that item, I can then go back to revisit this. This little technique has actually saved me countless hundreds of dollars, if not thousands, on buying things which I no longer need, because at the end of the day, how many leopard print pajamas does one need? Okay, so this brings up to number 5 on the personal finance habit, which is to not keep up with the Joneses. Many people love comparing ourselves with one another, but it's important to be clear on our own personal values to ensure that it marries up with our personal finance habits. For example, you might be finding yourself pressured to go spend money because your friends are doing it, in which case I might suggest, well, get better friends. There's an insane quote about this that I heard, which is people spend money that they don't have to buy things that they don't want to impress people that they don't like. Think on that. Oh, and there's a bonus number 6 personal finance habit, guys, which is to keep things fun. Now, we've all heard stories about, so-and-so saved $10 million in 10 years because they lived on nothing but baked beans and 2-minute noodles. That's not what personal finance is about. Personal finance should be fun, because at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that having more wealth gives me more options to do with my time. And because time is the most valuable commodity in the world, having more time obviously increases my way of life. So don't forget to share some of your wins and losses on this journey, guys, and remember to reward yourself. One way that I like to do it is I treat myself to a nice fancy meal when I've hit some of these financial goals, because then it makes me want to attain bigger and better things. So if you like this video, guys, please do me a favor, subscribe on my channel below, click on the little bell, turn the notifications on, and I'll see you next time. Bye, guys. When I say arson, I don't mean fire. Sorry. When I say arson. So it's actually very important to have financial goals. The way I like to think about it is you just take a ship, you want to go from point A to point B.
Doesn't make sense, dude.
Okay.
And it also sounds like you were saying you're going to take a shit.
This countless technique has actually saved me countless hundreds of dollars. Shh. What do you think?